Good evening, my friends. Welcome back to another episode of Redpill Fitness. I am your host, Josh. Hope you guys have been having a good day today. I've had a pretty average day, I'll say. Let's see what all happened. Not a lot in the news. If you guys don't know, I have two platforms. I have this platform to talk about the gym, bodybuilding, fitness, nutrition, the fitness lifestyle, as they call it. That's this platform. And then we have the other platform, Beholden to Fitness. I'm sorry, Beholden to Truth, which is also the name of the entire account as a whole. And for that show, we tend to stick to politics, current events, conspiracy theories, and all kinds of important information. We talk spirituality and religion, and we share worldviews and that kind of thing. But this stream, this Red Pill Fitness stream, is devoted to answering questions that are trending regarding the fitness and nutrition lifestyle. And so whether those questions are coming in from you guys in the chat, I'm happy to answer them that way. Otherwise, we just scroll through the fitness board on 4chan and pick out questions to answer. Myself, I have about 8 years of bodybuilding experience at this point, both natural and unnatural. Pretty much just an average dude. I don't do this for a living. I don't get paid to do any of this. I just love the sport. Excuse me. I know I have personal testimony to how helpful it can be in the other aspects of life as well. It's not just about getting a cool looking physique and being able to lift weight. I know for a fact that there's a very long list of benefits from achieving physical health. It has just this magical way of also improving your mental health. And then when you're in a better mental state, it's a little easier to have healthy and optimistic spiritual health as well. And so all these things are integrated. So that's kind of what my channel bobs and weaves between is 1 minute we'll be talking about the best form for your deadlift, and then the next minute I'll be giving some kind of sermon about the importance of Jesus Christ. So you just got to take the crunchy with the smooth. If you're agnostic or atheist, whatnot, we still love you. I still want you here. You just have to tolerate me ranting about hating the Antichrist and Satan and all this other stuff. That'll happen sometimes. Happened this morning's broadcast, and it happened last night as well. So, fair warning. Anywho, let's jump into answering some of these questions here. Do you want to start with some of the easy stuff? What is some cool gym apparel? Let's talk about gym apparel for just a second here, because I certainly have some pet peeves and some cringe moments from looking back in my past. Like, dang, I wore that to the gym, really? So what is this thread saying? What is the fitness equivalent of sex core? I don't even know what sex core is. Nike Blazers, Chucks, Lululemon, everything else. What else? Okay, I'll just tell you what I think a grown man should be wearing to the gym, because hopefully that's the majority of people I'm talking to. Or you may be a young man, maybe you're in your teens or early 20s, but in my opinion, you need to be a grown man 18 and beyond. And honestly, a lot of you 16, 17-year-olds need to man up as well. Because we are facing a tragic, desperate erosion of masculinity in America, everybody's got to be a role model at this point. Everybody listening, you got to take this shit seriously and set the example for who a man should be. And just part of who a man should be is strong, capable, physically. So, what clothing should a grown-ass man be wearing to the gym? All this goofy compression gear? No. The stuff that looks like it's like suction cupped onto you? No. We need to be wearing golden era sweat pants or sweat shorts, a wife beater or a stringer. And that's it. If it's cold, if it's winter season, then you wear a hoodie. But no fucking windbreakers, no jogging suits. as mentioned, I really, really don't like the compression gear. The Under Armour, all that shit. Don't need any of that. In terms of shoes, something flat-footed and basic. I mean, if you want to, I actually don't like Chuck Taylors. I'm not a fan of Converse, whether low top or high top. But, you know, they are a classic. So if that's what you want to do, if you want to be a basic bro, then get you some of those. Otherwise, Nikes are fine, but you got to be careful with which ones you choose. Like, you need to maintain a traditional masculine appearance. Like, don't fuck up the picture by choosing the wrong shoes. Some like goofy, loud basketball Jordan shoe. Do not wear Jordans to the gym. I know you're not serious about lifting if you wear Jordans to the gym. And I know you're going to point to like, well, Phil Heath or some other Mr. Olympia who wears basketball shoes to the gym. Until you win a national level competition, no. Until people put your name on their clothing, no. Basketball shoes are not serious training shoes. And you'll look like a clown. So that's my opinion on gym clothing. Is it still worth it getting braces at 23 years old? Slightly misaligned front teeth, protrude my upper lip, as well as a rather heavy crossbite. I recently turned 23, and my dentist said treatment is possible but would take 2 years minimum. Is a perfect smile worth it if it means being ugly in your mid-20s due to braces? So first and foremost, this dude should be looking at Invisalign. Like, if you're going to make the committed choice to get braces, then nowadays there's a solution for looking like an idiot. Like, you know, if you have aesthetics in mind, and that's one of the large reasons you're probably training, because you'd like to look better, especially in the short term, obviously in the long term, but, you know, the sooner the better. Yeah, just get Invisalign. There's nothing wrong with getting braces at 23 years old. There's nothing wrong with getting braces in your 30s or 40s, whenever you want to get braces. Doesn't matter. Whatever you want to do to your body, assuming it's a healthy thing, that'll make you feel more confident about yourself, then do it at whatever age you currently are. If anything, don't keep putting it off, is my recommendation. It's the same as putting off training. You can't get Invisalign at a certain point. I don't know. I went to get Invisalign. I got a consult done last year, and I got some pretty serious gaps. Like, look at my smile. It seems kind of normal, but if from the right, that gap. And I got the same thing on that side. And they told me I would actually be just fine. So it's like, it's closing a big gap. So you got to be like really jacked up to not be able to get Invisalign. And he's just saying he has a slightly misaligned front tooth, you know, some other small things. But in the event that you can't get Invisalign, is it worth it to trade 2 years of looking goofy in the face for a lifetime of a straight smile? Yeah, I don't know about overbites and whatnot, but it could definitely fix his front tooth. But either way, I think if you can afford it, especially, I mean, dental, what do they call these things? I forgot what they're called. It's not just dental surgery. There's a special word for it. But these things cost several thousands of dollars. So honestly, the fact that you're only 23 years old and that you can actually afford this, I'm pretty impressed with. So kudos to you for that. But, you know, I do kind of wish, orthodontics, I do wish I probably would have got braces. But for me, it was always a financial thing. Like, I just never had a discretionary few $1,000s to throw down on that. And, you know, mewing. Yeah, I definitely know what mewing is. It's funny, we actually talked about that on this channel a couple nights ago, because there was another question that was asked that was asking if mewing helps create jaw definition. And so I gave my opinion on that's a complete waste of time. Paying for some device, this little plastic or whatever thing you're going to sit there and chew on for 30 minutes a day or whatnot, believing that that's going to make your jaw blow up and that you're going to be more aesthetic because of that, there's much better ways that are less intrusive to make your jaw look good. And the very first one is make sure you get low body fat. And I know that's the thing nobody wants to do because it means significant sacrifice in your life. It means having a tight diet. But the people who think they don't have a great jawline, it's typically because they haven't yet achieved single-digit body fat. And the other component of it is just genetics. Like, there's not that much you can change about your jawline other than get very lean. And if you're going to mew, that's not going to dramatically change the shape of your face. That's my belief. Requires nothing. It's just like tongue posture in the mouth. Let's look at mewing. What is mewing? An internet craze to change the shape of your jawline and fix other blah, 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 blah. Retraining the position of the tongue. So, yeah, the way they do that, what I was reading the other night, was they sell you a device that you hold in your mouth that then makes your tongue used to sitting in a different place. So you're sitting there with an object in your mouth as training how many ever nights a week, how many ever minutes a day. Thing. Others suggest you focus on breathing out of your nose instead of your mouth. That is good. You shouldn't be a mouth breather, you know. That's definitely socially awkward. You don't want to be that. Jawline exercise tools. Wow. Best exercises for a defined jaw. Okay, so look, this is what I'm talking about. Is you'll have young men who are sitting at 25% body fat saying, man, I don't have a jawline. All those lucky chads, they have these sharp jaws. How can I fix this? And so they go on the internet and somebody tells them, the very first thing they tell them is, have you heard of mewing? Like, that's what I'm talking about. That's what this channel is for, is to call out the bullshit and to tell you what's most dramatically going to actually make a difference versus the shit that's going to make 5% or less of a difference. And the thing that's going to be night and dark difference is getting your facial body composition down as low as possible. We were just looking at pictures of Chris Bumstead, you know, Mr. Olympia, classic division 3 times over, Chris Bumstead. And there was a picture comparison of him when he's bulking versus, dieted down for the Olympia. And you could see very clearly how much facial fat he was carrying to where you wouldn't assume that he just has these facial genetics of the gods. Images. See if I can, there it is. We can pull this picture up of Mr. Bumstead. Oh, dude, I don't actually follow Chris Bumstead on Twitter. Gotta fix that. Okay, the picture was in Google. Yeah, so there's a reason he's got a thick beard right there. It's because his jawline isn't banging. You can see it in his cheeks how puffy he is. And that's because he's sitting at, in that picture, probably it's somewhere around 17% body fat. Mewing comes from one Dr. Mike Mew, and he basically says to breathe through the nose and eat hard foods like meat and stuff because our facial muscles are weakened by modern processed food stuff. All the more reason to make sure you're getting 3 meals of meat a day. Actually chewing your food and not having fucking vegan smoothies as the primary source of where you get your protein. Like, I don't do protein shakes. I haven't done protein shakes in probably 5 years. Everything I eat, I chew. Maybe you got a point. Maybe that's why I have a decent jawline, because every calorie I consume, I should say, I chew. I actually got off on this tangent with a friend of mine lately because they were asking me, now that it's fall season, Are you looking forward to all the soups and the stews and all that stuff that's unique to the cold weather? And I was like, actually, no, not at all, because I hate soup. I fucking hate soup. I don't like to drink my food. Like, that's not food to me. Picking the food out of a bowl of water, of flavored water, that's not how I want to eat food. I want to chew my food. So, fuck soup. That's my rant on that. But maybe that is why I have a decent jaw, though. I chew everything. I don't know. Maybe I had a bias that I didn't even know. Maybe it's a privilege I didn't even know that I was. Well, that's the thing. It's not a privilege because that's not luck. That's the result of habitual behavior, choosing to chew all your food. So once again, this isn't a genetics thing. It's a look at your life and whether it's mewing because you apparently don't chew enough, or your face is flabby because you're not lean enough. Those are the things you can control. Life always comes down to just figuring out whatever it is I'm unhappy with, what aspects of it are within my control versus the rest of the world, things I can't control. The things you can never control are your genetics. So sitting around bitching about that is not going to get you anywhere, and that's obviously true with every regard to your physique and in life. Bitching about the set of parents that you had, the person that dumped you for no good reason, whatever. You got to move on from that stuff. Self-pity is this is not attractive. It's not going to get you anywhere. Self-pity over your jawline, self-pity over the shape of one of your muscle insertions or somebody else's physique compared to yours. I have very, very low tolerance for self-pity. It's just not productive. Okay, what else do we got here on the fit board tonight? How do I get hair like this? I have pretty much the same hair, and I'm probably never going to have the physique, but at least I can try and replicate the hair. What do I need to do so? Listen, hair is largely genetic too. My hair is naturally actually really curly and frizzy. And so I have to put a shitload of product in it. And over the course of like 20 years of styling, figure out some decent ways to make it as straight as I would like and all that stuff. So you got to grow it out, obviously. And then, a funny story. When I was younger, I was obsessed with stuff like this about achieving someone else's hairstyle or achieving someone else's physique. That's just kind of how young men think, which honestly, it's not a bad thing. But because you do have to set the bar based on observing something. And so whether that's a physique or a hairstyle or whatever kind of aesthetic that you admire, sure, that template, that model in your head has to come from somewhere, and it's going to come from the things that you observe. But where you have to be very careful is not making the assumption that that's achievable for you, because there's too many things that are held back by genetics that are just going to reroute you towards something else, even if you put forth equal effort. Yeah, BG, man, feel free to drop a link in here. How do I get hair like this? Yeah. So, you can grow it out, and if it ends up that you have curly hair, this is the funny story I got. I mentioned but didn't tell. When I was a high schooler, I got this idea. It's the same kind of scenario, actually. I got really jealous of a friend of mine who grew his hair out one year, and after summer break, we all came back to school, and then first day of the school, all the girls were clamoring over him and his awesome new long hair. And it looked like that. It was like surfer blonde, perfectly straight, shoulder length. And of course he had a nice tan, and guess what? He had muscles. And so when you're in high school, having muscles and this awesome hairstyle basically means you're walking Brad Pitt. So obviously, as a guy who had never exercised before and had put no effort in my life to look good, but somehow felt that I should look good. It's not fair that other people look good, despite the fact that I'm not trying at all to look good. I'm not exercising. I'm not actively figuring out, how can I optimize my genetics? I was jealous of him. And so I was like, I'm going to grow my hair out. I'm going to grow my hair out. And then all the girls are going to come and want to touch my hair and be so impressed. And so I grow my hair out, and unfortunately, it doesn't grow down beautifully straight. It grows sideways and up, like a fucking afro. So that was really disappointing. I spent like 4 or 5 months not getting a single haircut to grow my hair out, maybe even longer than that. And that's what I got for trying to look like somebody else. I learned that that's just not even in my genes. So I still tried to fight it, though. I was like, well, there's got to be something I can do to look like that. So I went and got my hair chemically straightened at basically the black hair cutting place in the local mall. You know, people where they go to get their hair permed. I went in there and I got my hair permed. Permed is just short for permanently straightened. So I went in there, 16-year-old white boy with an afro, and walked out with this stick straight, long brown hair down to my shoulders. And the girls did not notice. In fact, most of my friends told me that I looked better just with my natural curly Jew fro. So that's what I learned from trying to take somebody else as an example for being my goal. I was like, no, you can't do that. That was an early lesson and can't do that. It took me a much longer time to figure out the secrets about working out and how important that was to the overall package. Like you really got to create an overall package of, sure, an aesthetic face helps and maybe a jawline and maybe a certain style hair. But you got to put a lot of work into, oh no. Man, yeah, that's a bench fail right there. What is that? 1, 2, that looks like 3 plates plus a little bit. Oh, but those aren't real plates, I don't think, just judging by the size of that guy. I think those are bumper plates. You think he had that? Let's look close. Well, yeah, the spotter just Mr. Run to the rescue. Yeah, he's damn close to locking out that. Like he probably had it. It's hard to say. I'm watching the guy in the back to see how long he waited because it's like it's kind of just bad timing. If he was watching from the beginning of the rep, he would have known that the tempo that guy was lifting at, he needed to give him a little bit more time to see if he was going to clear it. But the fact that he looked over, kind of like when the rep was already underway, he was trying to be safe, and then he tripped on, if you look at that, there's like a bunch of shit behind the bench. So that's just kind of an unsafe gym environment in the first place. Good for him for having the clips on, though. You'll see that once he bails over the side. Yeah, see how they immediately stripped him off on one side? And another thing you'll notice, you can tell this is a real gym with real lifters, is that woman that runs in has elbow wraps on. So she's over there powerlifting herself. Nothing like a woman power lifter. Most y'all can't handle a woman power lifter. She would probably squish you like a watermelon. Okay, what else do we have in the fitness board? Let's get a refresh from the top and see what's up here. Is there a way to sort this by reply count? There we go. That's like the most buzzing questions. These Meyer threads are always pretty funny. You know, it's guys basically bragging about the first time that people take notice of their gains, which, look, you know, it's a proud moment. It took me like a year or two before people really started noticing that I lifted, because I started off so small. Like even after a year of lifting, I was 137 pounds or something like that. Have you ever heard of the term looks maxing? Is that like in the same category as the pickup artist kind of stuff? That's what it sounds like. Guys that would be that would be talking about pickup artistry would probably also be talking about looks maxing and mewing. Which I'm not making fun of that category of folks. That's young men talking to each other, trying to figure out how do we become the best men that we can with our limited set of knowledge. I think they overcomplicate it though, is the thing. They think it's like a formula that like, hey, can somebody give me a script to read to a girl to get her to respond in a favorable way? And I come from it from a different angle in that establish confidence in what you've accomplished so far before you go and try to offer yourself to someone else, because until you've actually accomplished some things, you're just not that valuable. You're not that impressive. Especially if you're saying that you already struggle just to have social interaction and you can't even figure out how to start a conversation with the girl. Like, you don't have social skills to offer her, so what else? Do you have some, like, banging ass career? Probably not at that age. Looks maxing is super popular with younger men nowadays. It's the belief that you have a genetic potential with looks and you got to max out every stat you can. Your physique, face, haircuts, and beard. Okay, so this is, that's related to the aesthetics movement. That's Chest Bra and Jeff Side and Z's or Ziz. See, that's what I mean by trying too hard, because you can go down on the rabbit hole of putting forth infinite amount of effort into that. You know, like, look, are you doing your facial mask every night? Are you, bleaching your butthole? Are you making sure your nails are trimmed every single day? Are you getting your eyebrows waxed? All this kind of stuff. These same guys end up with ear piercings, which I think is just completely out of line. Completely out of line. Same guys end up with tattoos. They get the stupid sleeve tattoo that they think is just so aesthetic nowadays. Look, the sleeve tattoo is the modern version of barbed wire around your bicep. I hate to break it to that. Like, that's not something people want to hear because it's so popular right now. I know my camera seems like it's out of focus. Camera, what's going on? Anyway, you had The Rock and these other celebrities, and, Ziz and Chest Bra both guilty of this as well, for popularizing the sleeve tattoo. Guys, your body is a temple. Your body is sacred. Your body is the most unique thing on earth. So, treat it that way. Some people do go far, like apparently smoking cigarettes is aesthetic and so attractive, and so some guys will start smoking just for that. I can talk to you a little bit more about that, because guilty as charged. I smoked for about 3 years cigarettes. I didn't do it to look cool though. I did it for appetite suppression. Which, this is the unfortunate truth. Like, I'm not sitting here advocating cigarette smoking, obviously. Lung cancer is real. Throat cancer is real. You'll stink. People won't want to invite you places because after 2 hours, you have to get up and go have a smoke break. Don't smoke. It's very, very bad. But there is no denying that smoking does suppress appetite. Unfortunately, like, that's why fashion models and fitness models, ironically, health and fitness models end up smoking, is because it is true that it suppresses appetite. And so if your entire self-worth revolves around how much body fat you have, then you're willing to do harmful things to yourself, including smoking, to maintain that image so that you don't have a psychological breakdown because you no longer look optimal. Yeah, cigarettes are they're very, very destructive, but when it comes to whether or not we should legalize them and this kind of stuff, I struggle with that because I'm largely a libertarian, meaning if you want to destroy your body, at some point we got to let adults be adults. I mean, that's why there's an age limit on cigarettes, right? You know, we fixed that part at least. We said, look, until you're a grown adult, you can't make the decision to poison yourself, which is good. I think that's kind of the healthy balance. You know, for us to completely ban cigarettes and say, look, they're so unhealthy that nobody can smoke, period, then you're just not respecting adults being adults. And look, if somebody wants to smoke until they're 60 and die 20 years before they should have, that's their decision. It's the same. Look, we have alcohol, the same thing, where we say until you're 21, at least, you know, here in the United States, the limit is 21. And at that point, if you want to abuse alcohol, then be my guest, do so, rot your liver, it's fine. But you can't do that until you're an adult. So that's kind of, I think, the fair balance of not just saying it's blanket illegal, but making sure we have people making mature decisions. Yeah, you bring up the slippery slope because it's like, why are you being selective with cigarettes and alcohol, but suddenly you can't trust adults to make good decision about weed and about steroids and every drug for that matter? And that is the argument. And it's the truth is the reason certain things get federally or at the state level legalized is not about the individual drug. It's about how much profit can be made off of the drug. So this is really interesting. You talk about MDMA being legal. Where I live in Oregon, obviously within the United States, all drugs have been decriminalized. Coke and heroin are hyperdestructive as well. It correlates to crime. Yeah, but I mean, how can you make that argument but still say alcohol is okay? And look at the number of drunk drivers we have die every single year who also kill other people in accidents every single year. And then add in the people who simply die of alcohol poisoning. And then add in the people who die of eventual cirrhosis of the liver. I mean, alcohol kills millions of people. But there's a huge business, a long-standing business in America that people just aren't willing to give up. And it's the American philosophy of, I'm a grown-ass motherfucker, okay? If I want to drink myself to death, then let me. But it's such a confusing thing because you should say, look, if I'm a grown-ass man, if I want to shoot heroin until I die, then let me. So yes, MDMA and heroin and crack cocaine and every other drug you can name, street drugs, are legal in Oregon. Well, it's not that they're legal, it's that they made them decriminalized, meaning if you're caught with them, that's not a crime. They don't enforce any kind of penalty. There's no financial fee. You don't go to jail. It's just a whatever. It's a non-event. It's decriminalized. Yeah, so Oregon is essentially running a test phase or a test pilot for the rest of the country. And let me tell you, I'm moving away from Oregon next month because of this issue and many other issues. But this is considered a liberal worldview. The liberal worldview is, look, man, as long as people pass a certain age, just let them have any drugs they want. And unfortunately, the reason why we do see a batch of legal drugs and a batch of illegal drugs is because one thing that we do know is when you legalize everything, shit goes downhill fast. And this just happened in the last 2 years when they decriminalized everything in Oregon. And since then, we have seen record levels of crime, record levels of homelessness. I just went to the park on a first date, and my dog got attacked by a drug dealer's attack dog. And so it's like, how do you achieve the right balance of giving people the autonomy to make good decisions? And if they want to expose themselves to certain risks, let them do that. But at the same time, not let your entire society go straight down the tubes. Joe Rogan kind of guy. I don't mind psychedelics and stuff, but I'm against heroin and hard drugs. I've never used any psychedelics. All I've ever done is smoked weed. So I don't really have a fair perspective to say. From what I have heard, they are kind of in the same category of weed in that they're not necessarily strongly addictive, and they're very mind opening and mind altering. That's one of the reasons, though, why the government does feel it necessary to suppress certain drug use, is that I think some of that stuff really does lift the shade on basically, it allows people to be more open-minded. It allows them to see outside of the sandbox. And when people look outside of the sandbox of what's on the mainstream news and the most recent Marvel movies coming out in Hollywood, and they figure out what's going on behind all of that, it implicates the government in an unimaginable number of crimes. And when you find out that the government is actively hurting its people, the people that elected it, the people that pay its taxes, you create people who are very bitter and resentful of the government. Obviously, I'm one of them. It's not like I try to hide that. But it's because I learned about the crimes the government has committed against its people. And that just broke my trust. If you Google Ruby Ridge, we are so off the topic of fitness at this point, but Ruby Ridge was a situation of the government killing innocent people and calling them innocent Americans, I should say. It's a little family that moved up to the middle of the woods because they didn't like the government. They didn't trust the government, and so they moved out to the middle of the woods. They didn't want to be a part of society anymore. It was a guy, his couple kids, and their dog, and his wife. And so that's what they did, and they were happy just doing their own thing, growing their own food, being off the grid. Guess what happens? Government comes knocking on their door, like, hey, what are you guys doing up here? And they're like, we're minding our own fucking business, leave us alone. Government didn't trust them. Government doesn't trust people who don't trust the government. This is how it works. So they started spying on them. The government did. And they found out that the husband had sawed off a shotgun for somebody else in a local community. Like, he didn't sell him a shotgun. He didn't give him a shotgun. That person brought their shotgun to him, and all he did was saw off the barrel of it. And so the ATF, the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms force of the United States government, came up in their land using that whole "we caught you sawing off a shotgun" thing, which is technically against the law. And the person that they did that for, the government alleged, was part of a white supremacy domestic terrorist group. And so the ATF rolls up on the house with fucking snipers, and a standoff ensues to where there's like dozens, if not even more than that, military forces outside of these people's property. And of course, you have the family inside basically saying, this is what we always feared. We moved our ass out to the middle of the woods because we don't like the government. We don't want to be involved. We don't want to hurt anybody. We just want to be left the fuck alone. And here you have the government coming up to their house saying, like, sorry, but we're here to fuck with you, and we're here to take you to jail because you sawed off a shotgun of some other guy who's in a group that we don't like. This story is fucked up because it just gets worse and worse and worse. So I can't remember which one happens first. I'm just going to... basically, the dog goes out because he hears something outside, which turns out to be one of these federal stormtroopers trying to sneak onto the property. The stormtrooper is afraid the dog is going to attack him, so the guy shoots the dog and kills the dog. Okay? So the family, the husband, wife, and the kids are watching this happen from inside the house. Imagine you're just hanging out in your house, scared, of all these fucking military people surrounding your house. and then you watch them shoot your dog and leave it to die in the yard, what happens? One of the little boys, one of the sons, goes out there and gets himself shot. I think he may have taken a gun with him. It's the kind of people who have guns for this reason. If a tyrannical government comes to kill you, you have the right of self-defense. This is why we have a Second Amendment that protects the right to bear arms. It's not rocket science. This is like fundamental American education that everybody knows. And so the kid runs out there, you just shot my fucking dog, and the kid gets shot. So now you have a dead dog and you have a dead kid. And so now you have the wife inside and the husband inside, and the wife is holding a baby in her arms. I'm sure they're both panicking and like, what do we do? They just killed our son and our dog. Guess what happens next? Wifey gets a bullet through the brain from a sniper through the window. So she slumps to the floor with the baby still in her arms. And you have dad here who's just watching his family get murdered. Eventually, he gives himself up because what else are you supposed to do? Actually, you know what? I think it might have been the uncle, not the dad. Something like that. Either way, we're talking about a dead wife, a dead kid, and a dead dog because the government didn't like these people's worldview, that they didn't trust the government. And they did all of this in the name of stopping white supremacy. Fast forward not even many years later, you have WACO, where a group of Christians say, we know what this government is all about. We know about the Zionist occupation here. We know this is Israel trying to run America from within. They don't want any part of this shit. They want to be left alone. So they go and build their own little private sanctuary out in the middle of nowhere in Waco, Texas. Guess who shows up? Because they got a tip that these Christians had a bunch of guns in their facility. And you're goddamn right they had a bunch of guns. It's for this reason. Because they don't trust the government. And so then the government uses that excuse that they're worried about this Christian group to go storm up on their property. And guys, this just gets so much fucking worse. How many people died here? They go and burn down the entire fucking facility, killing basically everybody inside. How many deaths? 86 dead. Guess who did it? The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. What do you know? In combination with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI. And the Department of Justice, obviously, are the people who looked into this and approved the warrants. So this is what I mean. There isn't a single government organization that you can trust with your life. Sorry for getting so off topic when it comes to fitness, but this is what you get when you come to this channel. You get some long-winded rants about how important it is for you to be physically capable of defending yourself, for you to be healthy in mind and body, and for you to be able to see through and think critically of the things happening around you. That is the red pill. That's why it's called red pill fitness. You obviously have to see through all the lies about the things you've been told about how to get fit. You know, sitting here doing 10,000 crunches, doing 1,000,000 bicep curls, eating only chicken, broccoli, and rice, thinking you have to have steroids, thinking that you're cursed genetics, all this stuff that you've been told, all that shit's a lie, so you got to take a red pill for that. But the bigger red pill is finding out that these people who make the laws are not to be trusted. That is the truth. We, as the people, need to be running the show. And right now, the government's running the show. Okay, next question. Hi there, Shio. How you doing? I'm looking at this one right here. Fact is that fat people are treated badly and need support in order to change. Fact is? No. Absolutely wrong. This is the fucking problem, guys. This is going to piss me off. Nobody needs support in order to not be fat. Support implies that you need something from somebody else to happen, something to happen out there in the world, in order for you to succeed. That's what support means. Oh, my wife doesn't like that I'm working out, or my family keeps trying to sabotage me by giving me this food. Oh, my coworkers are making fun of me because I started going to the gym. If you don't have support, it doesn't fucking matter. You need 0.0 support to make your own health a priority in your life. If you can't make your health a priority in your life, why the fuck do you think you need, like, other people are going to volunteer to make your health a priority in your life? This is very reflective. Look, each of these numbers up here, if you're not familiar with 4chan, is an individual response that quoted the original post. And there's 241 overall replies. So I'm very glad to see this person getting blown the fuck up. And this is probably just a troll to piss off people like me. But this speaks to the effeminization of men these days and of our entire society, thinking that you need somebody else in order for you to be strong. No, that's a woman. Okay? That's not a man. No man sits around saying, in order for me to succeed, in order for me to represent strength and accomplishment, I can't do those things until somebody else steps in and helps me. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And that's the bullshit that you see in the mainstream, though, is that, oh, you know, this fatness is a mental illness, and that we need to treat this from a perspective of empathy and sympathy. No, absolutely not. We've become so fucking soft. Okay. Let's see. What else we have? This is a funny recurring theme on Fit. And this will definitely happen to you if you start going to a gym on a regular basis, like the same gym at the same time. Take a swig of this drink real quick here. This stream brought to you by the one and only Jesus Christ. Hopefully you guys know who that is. So gym characters, that's the subject here of this comment. So gym characters are the especially noticeable people in the gym who you see there, you know, most of the times that you also are there. And like just something about the clothes they wear or their body language, sometimes their smell stands out. And so, you know, you kind of form this character of them in your head. You know, you might think like, what is this guy, like an old retired wrestler? Is that why he's like jacked as fuck, but he's 60 years old with like a Donald Trump tan? And so, you know, you'll always see these amusing threads where you got the hot girl who works out with their mom, the roided guy wearing a snapback hat who only does arms, gets leg mogged by everyone else in the gym. The Asian man who does sets of 30 pull-ups. That's impressive though. 30 pull-ups is a lot of pull-ups. Ex-college football trainer who is not fat as shit and spends his day explaining how to use machines to a 65-year-old woman. Oh man, that's spot on. I actually know one of those at one of the gyms I go to, because the thing is, if they're an ex whatever player, football player, fucking baseball player, whatever, they'll tell you. They'll make sure you know. Like, yeah, I would have had a career in football. I was in the division whatever, but I got injured. So that was the end of that. Like, okay. Thanks for your life story, bro. I was just looking for some tips about how to get fit and not eat like a piece of shit, but I'm sorry to hear that your college dreams of football didn't work out. Now you're a personal trainer making $20 an hour. Yeah, so that's gym characters. Very amusing. I highly suggest you do the same when you start going to the gym and you start recognizing people. You create a little narrative in your head. It makes you excited. It gives you like a sense of community when you see the same people in there. One of the things you'll observe is that a lot of the same people you see in there, you'll see them in there for a year, and they'll look no different than an entire year ago. Now, hopefully, you aren't also one of those people that people are looking at saying, I've been seeing that guy in here for a year, and he still looks the exact same. Hopefully, that's not happening to you. But I digress. We talked about push-pull legs, PPL, the other night, so we're going to skip that one. Supplements, that seems to come up pretty much every night. That's a quick answer. Fish oil, creatine, multivitamin. Make sure you get a gallon of water a day. I also like melatonin just because sleep is gold. Helps me make sure I get my 8 hours, and it's all natural. And that's it. That's my daily supplement routine, and that's including if you say water is a supplement. You don't need protein powder. You just should get protein from the actual food that you eat. If you're struggling to get enough protein powder, or get enough protein, then that's when maybe protein powder can help. But it's not by any means an essential supplement. Current body thread, CBT. Let's look at some folks. This is good for you guys to see how just, average dudes hanging out on Fit. Look, this is where I got my start, just looking at other guys and trying to figure out like what does a physique look like for a guy who is my height, who is my age, who's been working out for X number of years. And that's where you can go to get answers. And most people here are very, very generous about telling you all of those details. Like, hey man, how tall are you? Look, and he says, this is what he weighs. This is, here's his goals, how many calories he's eating per day, all that kind of stuff. You're obviously going to get some antics of shit posting and trolling and people getting made fun of. Oh, I don't know what's going on here, but homie's pug, I love it because you guys know I have my own little pug, my whole heart. My pug is better behaved than this, though. He does not get into the trash. He knows better. Matter of fact, I'm going to have to leave a comment on that. Gonna need you to train your pug better. Can't be getting into the trash. Captcha, please. What, am I supposed to be able to read that, guys? Like, come on. What is this how this works? What have you guys done to your Captcha system? This is impossible. I feel like I'm drunk. Can I get a different Captcha? Like, how do you know how far to move this thing? Okay, I guess we're not leaving a comment. That's what I would have said. Train your damn pug better. 178 pounds here after a 6-mile run and 200 pull-ups. Strong physique right there. That's a great physique. Should be proud of that. Pretty lean as well. That's 10% or lower. But look, so here's the good thing, and here's the value, is you got guys who look like this also in here. So, the last guy you looked at, I can tell just based on his physique that he had 5+ years of lifting. And then 2 posts down, you got a guy like this who maybe started working out within the last month or something like that. DYEL fag reporting in, which stands for Do You Even Lift? Which is pretty much accurate feedback. If I saw this physique, he's got the classic pear shape. See how his hips are wider than, his torso? It appears that way. Once he gets in shape, it will not be like that anymore, I promise. But that's going to take him a full year to clean up. This guy's got a lot of baby fat to burn off. He's sitting around 20, somewhere between 20 and 25%. He has very, very little muscle. And so, he's got a long way to go. I'll say a prayer for this gentleman. Let's say one right now, actually. Lord, please bless this anonymous individual. He's only just begun his fitness journey, and he needs your attention. He needs support from you, not other people. People can't help him in this regard. This is a matter of him and you. What I'm asking from you, Lord, is that you give him the right guidance to get him connected to the right circumstances, people, information, get him the right dieting information he needs, the right training information that he needs. What I pray for is that you direct him towards those things. And that you give him the discipline to adhere to those concepts on a regular basis. And we both know that if he just does those things, he will receive the results that he's looking for. Thank you, Lord. Amen. God bless, brother. Good luck. What do we have here? Up to 167 pounds. This dude's got the same haircut as I do. Come on, man. Yeah. Good looking physique. That's a few years lifting. It looks like 2 or 3-ish. The way you can tell is you have a pretty developed pectoral muscle there. Arm has some decent girth. You see some decent trap development. Sitting around 12% body fat, maybe 10 or 11, somewhere in there, 10 to 12. You have visible obliques on the side here. Vascularity, obviously, through the arms. I'm sure this is taken with the pump. He's sitting there in the gym. That's one of the unspoken rules of making physique updates. When you take physique update pictures, whether it's just for you or for other people, it's always implied that you have a pump and that the lighting is on point. Never post a picture and then sit there and say, well, I look better under different lighting. Well, I look better when I have a pump. Don't do that. Nobody even believes you when you say that, for one. And for two, you're trying to capture your optimum aesthetic. You're not trying to capture what you look like without a pump and under bad lighting. The point of all of this is to try to optimize the way you look. And so you need feedback. You need pictures and video of the best possible circumstances. So go find the best lighting, get a pump, take your pictures. A large part of that is going to be understanding posing and what angles to take your pictures at as well. That comes with time. You got a beginner here probably in your first year. He has some lats. See that V taper coming out along the waist and coming out on that side too? He has 0 chest, so he's going to need to focus on that. But relatively lean. Solid starter physique here. This is, somewhere maybe around a year or 2 of lifting. Probably 1 year. I can do these things all day. Break down physiques and tell you what their strengths and weaknesses are and about how long they've been lifting and all that kind of stuff. It is helpful to exercise I haven't done in a long time. I used to hang out on Fit and, actually type replies to people a number of years ago, doing it the old-fashioned way. Nowadays, with this streaming technology, I can knock out like 1 million different responses in one night, whereas previously it's very laborious to sit there and type. All right, what's next? Happy Veterans Day, by the way. I know that's tomorrow, but it's important to give a shout out to our veterans. They get put into conflicts that they have no business being in, and they risk their lives, all so that we can have free speech, all so that we can have at least an attempt at democracy, even if it's not a fully legitimate one. You know, it's what we have, and we would have much less than this without our brave veterans. So we all appreciate you. Also means we got a 3-day weekend, so I'm sure I'll have some extra time to hang out with you guys, do some more of these streams. I like streaming in the morning, but I usually can't because I have a 9 to 5. That's usually my main focus. So I'll actually get some morning streams in with you guys this weekend. I'm looking forward to that. Let's see. Fit appears to be pretty slow tonight. I'm not seeing like posts getting pushed up to the top. Although we do have this sorted by responses, so maybe that's why. Is a vegan diet recommended by Fit for general health? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's very, very difficult to maintain your protein needs on a vegan diet. And the way people typically do, if they are vegan, is by eating a lot of soy. And soy is counterproductive to adding muscle in the first place and maintaining optimal testosterone levels. So vegan diet is like the anti-fit diet, basically. It's actively sabotaging yourself. It's actively giving yourself a limit on the speed that you can go. All because you want a virtue signal about how much better of a person you are because you don't eat animals. You know, meanwhile, the home that you live in, the urban setting that you live in, is one giant monument to the destruction of the environment and that natural environment, including millions of animals' homes and livelihood. But yeah, you're a great person because you don't eat meat. Fucking joke is what that is. That is the liberal mentality that we here at Redpill Fitness are trying to wake people up to. This effeminate culture that's all about compassion. Like there's a time and place for compassion, but it's not the primary motivation. It's not the primary thing that you can structure a society around. You know, as a Christian, obviously you have compassion. But what virtue signaling is false compassion. I just explained the hypocrisy of it in that they're presenting themselves as a vegan as being somebody who is morally more compassionate than you are if you eat meat. Meanwhile, their very existence and their engagement in modern society slaughters animals by the millions. And they have no guilt over that whatsoever. If they were truly compassionate, then they would go live off the grid in a log cabin with no electricity, no electronics whatsoever, and they would just be one with the fucking bird people. And they would make their own clothing, you know, and they would eat leaves and berries, and they would live in whatever little fantasy Disneyland that they have in their head, who they think they are. But nobody does that, because nobody is actually that compassionate. Towards animals, especially. What else we got here, guys? What else do we have? Kryptonite. What are you guys' kryptonite? You know, your weakness when it comes to dieting. I'd love to hear it. Put it in the chat if you have one. My kryptonite, you know, I don't have temptation like I used to because I'm allowed so many calories nowadays, but I'm trying to think if I am in a family setting or a party or something like that, and there's just something that's presented that I can't say no to. That doesn't really happen. I can always say no. And the funny thing is I know that it makes me look lame. What's up, Dizjiz? Good to see you again, man. Or maybe DJ. That's another good name for you. How about just DJ? Yeah, kryptonite. I have the self-discipline now to where there is no kryptonite. There's no food that I just cannot pass up, that I don't have the self-discipline to say no to. That being said, there are obviously things that when I have a cheat day and I choose to go over my caloric maintenance, certain foods that I like to enjoy doing that with are fried food. Always love fried food. All right, Diz Jizz, we'll stick with your full name. Yeah, man, I love whether it's fried sweets or fried savory stuff. Doesn't matter. French fries, fried chicken, deep fried Oreos. So long as it's crispy and oily. Calamari, fried squid, fried banana. Like, seriously, just fucking deep fat fry anything and I'll enjoy it. That's me growing up in the South, being from Alabama. Lots of fried food. Poor Pepe. My man is sad. He says, "Are we all actually going to make it?" My friend, I have good news. We have all already made it. Our friend Jesus Christ died for all of us to save all of us. The work has already been done. So that's the good news. But how can you feel better about the path ahead of you? Until you get more confident that, yes, I am going to make it. And matter of fact, I've already made it. What are some things that you can do? Prioritize your physical health and your mental health, your spiritual relationship with God. Those are all the things you need to be doing. But yes, we are all going to make it, especially if we stick to the red pill. Call out the bullshit, separate the facts from the feelings. Yeah, Dizjiz, do you want to talk nutrition? I'm happy to. What you got? Oh man, I can do this question. While you're typing that, I'll answer this one. What's the difference between pull-ups and chin-ups, and which are better? This is a quick and easy one. Pull-ups are overhead, wide grip, overhand grip. So imagine this is the bar you're pulling up on. Your hand is going over it like this with a wide grip. That's a pull-up. Chin-ups are with a narrow grip. Your elbows closer together and your hand is wrapping underneath the bar and holding it rather than on top of the bar. So chin up, think close to your chin. Pull up are out here. Do I do meal prep? I do kind of a half version of meal prep. How I treat it is that I cook up my protein source in bulk on the weekend. So that's usually like 5 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken breast or 5 pounds of ground beef, lean ground beef. And then I use that meal prepped meat in a bunch of different meals that I figure out what I want to do each night. It gives me flexibility. What I ran into was like, suppose you just do a common meal prep meal of like chicken breast, rice, and a side of veggies. Or maybe instead of the rice, you might have some potatoes or whatever other carb source. If you just make that for all 5 nights of the week, by the time I get to like Wednesday, I don't want to have that anymore. And it doesn't mean I won't. Like I have the discipline to do it if I have to. But the thing is, why are you doing things that you're not enjoying? If you don't want to have the same meal 5 nights a week, then don't. There's better ways to do this. And so the compromise that I found is that you don't want to be cooking up meat from scratch every night because that is pretty annoying, sitting there having to brown the beef or grill the chicken or whatever. So go ahead and do that in bulk. But then you can choose what sides you want each night based on your cravings. So for me, I'll do the 5 pounds of chicken, and then that chicken will get used on nachos, fajitas, enchiladas, quesadillas. Obviously there's a Mexican theme there. I love Mexican food. But that's why it's so versatile. And the same thing applies for ground beef. You can make a ground beef version of all of those things. So that's why Mexican food is great, because you can kind of swap in different protein sources to keep your taste buds, excited. And there's also a lot of versatility with the different ingredients of Mexican food. Most of it is all cheese, veggies, meat, some seasoning, whether it's taco seasoning, enchilada seasoning, fajita seasoning. Once I've established my favorites, I'm the same way. So at this point, my entire diet for the last 6 months, definitely all of summer, every single dinner has been pizza or nachos. The only thing that varies is what kind of pizza and what kind of nachos. There's been some random nights where I chose to do one of those other things, like fajitas, enchiladas, or quesadillas. But 6 out of 7 nights a week for me it's some kind of pizza or some kind of pan of nachos. And just the versatility of switching back and forth from chicken and beef and then pizza or nachos, that's enough of a mix for me to just keep that going. And it's like, how can you really complain about life when you're having pizza or nachos every night? That's my theory. I mean, the other thing with the meal prep is if you're trying to meal prep up veggies also, those have a pretty short shelf life. Cooked veggies need to be eaten within a couple of days. You don't want to be eating broccoli that you cooked up in bulk 5 days later. What else do we have? Classic. It's over. A prostitute made fun of me for my gyno today. I think this is a troll post. Would injecting 500 milligrams of test help me add muscle to my chest and make me lose gyno? That's all kinds of bad advice right there. Don't do that. You definitely don't do that. Don't go and inject half a gram of test. It's not like taking test is somehow localized to helping out with chest specifically more so than your other muscles. If you have a single muscle group that you need to bring up the slack on or compensate for, that's down to training. That's not down to manipulating your steroids, your any kind of PEDs or your supplements or your diet. Individual muscle groups are down to your exercise routine. Oh, goodness gracious. What else we got? Nothing there. What are natural ways to boost my energy levels? I mean, the first one's obvious. If your sleep is not on point, then that's where you have to start. If you're not getting a full 8 hours of sleep and you're sitting around complaining about your energy levels, then I'm just going to look at you like you're stupid. Now, if you're one of the very rare, less than 1% of people who mathematically don't have 8 hours a day to give to sleep, that's usually indicative of poor time management. And I say this as somebody who maintained a full-time executive career while going to college full-time. So 40 hours of schoolwork, 40 hours of... My dog is back here grooming himself, making these nasty noises. 40 hours of work, 40 hours of education, and the gym on top of that, and trying to date and have a social life on top of that. And I did it. I did all of that shit at a high level. And so energy levels, as mentioned, are primarily down to rest. You can't compensate by taking a bunch of drugs or supplements to suddenly change your energy levels. At a baseline, 90% of the returns you're going to get are going to come from how much rest you're getting. And how much rest you're getting is directly tied to your time management. So get your time management on point so that you can get your 8 hours on point. Now, if you're sleeping 8 hours and then you still habitually have low energy levels, you need to talk to a doctor about your testosterone levels because you actually might clinically have low testosterone. Other ways of naturally boosting test, or not test levels, but energy levels, hydration is fundamental. I got to be careful about being a broken record when I talk about the importance of hydration because people still sleep on it. But it is one of the most important things you can make sure you're doing in the overall diet and nutrition aspect of life that will immediately improve your energy levels and your capabilities in the gym and your aesthetics, clears up your skin. It boosts your metabolism. It improves nutrient partitioning, meaning the food that you do eat, it makes more optimal use of that food. Just gram per gram, it gets used more efficiently. More of it goes into the muscle than to waste. If you're getting your proper hydration, which for most people is going to be a gallon a day. That's just, if you just do that, then you should be fine. That's the conservative estimate. If you're over 200 pounds, you might need to have a gallon and a half a day, but otherwise you're fine, hitting a gallon a day. Okay, what do we have here? This individual needs hope. And he says, if I manage to quit 4chan, porn, and masturbation, then how long would it take until my brain becomes somewhat normal again, considering I replace it with healthy stuff like lifting and meditation? Yeah, well, you got a lot of unhealthy habits going on there. And I'm not trying to present myself as a saint, by the way. I'm just saying it's not a secret that hanging out excessively on 4chan or any place on the internet, whether it's video games or message boards or Twitter, spending, hours and hours a day on the internet is not healthy. Two, porn and masturbation, which are, I'm not even going to say closely related, they just overlap to a very large degree. So, how can you get control over those habits? That's a matter of desensitization, and the longer you can go without it, the less you'll want it. It's an addiction, just like any other addiction. So you got to do the whole starting streaks method, where it starts with, okay, I'm going to not do this today. I'm not even going to make the commitment that I can do this, not do it for a whole week. I'm not there yet. I'm still so addicted that I got to do it often. So where I'm going to start with, where I'm going to be realistic with myself and my actual capabilities based on my track record, I'm going to start with saying I'm not going to do that thing today. I'm not going to spend 4 hours on 4chan. I'm not going to jerk off to whatever it is that you keep jerking off to today. And that's where you start. And then tomorrow, when you have a relapse, because you probably will, you don't go and chastise yourself and beat yourself with mental whips about how much of a failure you are. You make the promise again, and you make it with sincerity. And so the next day you wake up, and maybe you relapse again, and you keep doing this. You have a reminder every day to reset the goal, and eventually you're actually going to obey yourself because you get tired of feeling like a failure every day. And then you'll have that 1-day streak. And you'll actually be somewhat proud of yourself for not resorting and sliding back to the same mindset and the same guilty habits that you always have. And that 1-day streak will turn into a 2-day streak. And eventually a week-long streak. And then you'll relapse. And you'll feel even worse about it because you're like, damn, if that's the first time I ever made it to a whole week without porn, and then I went and blew it, literally. And so you got to be mindful to not go inward and do that thrashing of your own self. You got to forgive. This is where spirituality does play a very large component, because dealing with failure and disappointment in yourself is very hard when you're trying to do it all yourself. And the reaction for most people is to try to look for support in other places and other people, or in substances. We talked about that earlier, about people thinking that they need support before they can stop being fat. They need support before they can stop jerking off. All of these things, these changes are going to have to come from within. And the only individual that you can talk to other than yourself to find support and to find solace when you do fall off the wagon is God. He's the only other thing that's out there available to you 24/7, 911 call whenever you want it. I suggest anytime that you have that relapse and you're feeling bad about yourself and you realize, man, I'm having a lot of negative self-talk right now. I'm sitting here blaming myself for doing the things that I knew I was going to do and not avoiding the temptations that I know are going to be there. Like Dizjiz just said, if you're on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok, the temptation is just, it's overwhelming. It's everywhere. Like you can just go to your Facebook and all you want to do is see if your dad posted something or see if one of your family members posted something, and there's going to be some chick with her tits out, and there you go. You're like, fuck, here we are again. So it's a matter of self-discipline to not let that stimulus become the downward spiral that has you pulling up Pornhub or going over to 4chan. That's a matter of self-discipline. You have to learn how to handle temptation. And that's what you'll see in terms of like the payoff of devoting yourself to the fitness lifestyle. To succeed in the fitness lifestyle, which means exercise and nutrition, you have to have self-discipline. You will not gain the muscle you want to gain if you don't have the discipline to eat the right amount of protein and to actually do your gym sessions. And so this is the beauty of how it's all connected, is that yes, being fit gives you a cool physique, and yes, it makes you physically healthy, but the mental discipline and the fortitude that you gain from delaying gratification over and over again and saying, I'm not going to eat that food, I'm going to eat the right food. I'm not going to skip the gym, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm not going to get wasted on the weekend with a bunch of alcohol because I know that's sabotaging my gains. Every time you make those better decisions, you're instilling self-discipline in yourself. So then, when it comes to breaking some other unhealthy bad habit that you have, such as being addicted to porn, you can apply that same level of self-discipline that says, okay, I just had the temptation just showed up on my screen, however it came about. But you know what? I know for a fact that I have self-discipline because I've done it. I've done the successful dieting. I lost the fat. I put on the muscle. I didn't skip the gym sessions. I know I'm a human being who has self-discipline. And so there you go. Like suddenly now you're talking out loud, promoting yourself, not beating yourself up. You're painting yourself in a positive light. That's self-affirmative positive talk. And it's not just blowing smoke up your ass. Like you actually have evidence to point to that says, yeah, I do have proof that I have self-discipline, and that proof is in the dieting and the fitness that I've been following. And so you can, start working on all that doubt that you had of whenever you have a deeply rooted addiction, you have a real doubt. Am I ever going to be able to quit this thing? Like I'm addicted to cigarettes, addicted to nicotine. Am I ever going to be able to kick that addiction? I'm addicted to overeating. I'm addicted to porn. I'm addicted to gambling. Addiction comes in a zillion different ways. And it's going to be self-discipline that breaks any given addiction. So, you kind of figure out the secret to life, and the secret to being healthy in all regards is self-discipline. And that's taught through the fitness lifestyle. Okay, what else do we have here? Man, we're going on 1 hour and 22 minutes. I'm going to give this about 7 or 8 more minutes and wrap it up at 1.5 hours. I got to get my dog walked. It's time for me to have my own dinner, my own nutritionally conscious, highly protein dense, either nachos or pizza. It's going to be a 1,200 calorie meal. That's how large my dessert or my dinner is. And then I have about 1,500 calories worth of desserts, but they're healthy desserts. I do a healthy version of Rice Krispie treats or a healthy version of cheesecake, that kind of stuff. And then I throw in a few protein bars. And so I actually eat all 2,750 calories in a period of about 2 hours every night. That's called intermittent fasting, for those who don't know, where you don't eat throughout the day, skip breakfast, skip lunch, you don't snack, and then you have all of your calories in a small eating window at the end of the day. How large that eating window is going to come down to like what your individual schedule looks like, like your work schedule and when can you get home from the gym and all that kind of stuff. By the time I wrap up everything I want to do every day, which is a 9-to-5 work job. Lately, I've been trying to get 1 hour in with you guys, whether it's doing a news broadcast or a fitness question and answer session. I got to get 1 hour-long gym session in. And so by the time I do all that stuff, it is actually 7 o'clock at night. And so it's actually pretty easy for me to just stay busy all day. And so I'm not thinking about, oh man, what's for breakfast? What's for lunch? When's snack time? Guys, if you need fucking snack time, then you're still in childhood. You don't have full mental control over your faculties. The sensation of feeling hungry, whether it's, you feel your stomach bubble or it's funny, like how do you describe the physical sensation of feeling hungry? your stomach kind of like it tenses up or it bubbles or whatever, however you describe feeling hungry. You maybe even get a hunger headache. Those are usually actually just dehydration, by the way. When you get a headache and it's like, oh, I haven't eaten in how many ever hours, that's why I have a headache. Almost every time, that's actually a matter of dehydration. It's one of the excuses people use to sit there and snack all day. And the truth about the reason people snack all day is because they enjoy the dopamine hit. Like your taste buds are tied to the neural chemistry that sends out dopamine when you eat something that tastes good. When you have a piece of chocolate, whether it's just one little M&M, that sends a pleasure sensation to the brain. And so, you're working and there's like a bowl of M&Ms at the desk, and every time you walk by, you don't think it's a big deal. You just reach in and you grab a few. Not only are you consuming empty calories throughout the day, but you are addicting yourself to those dopamine spikes. Your body becomes used to being reminded every hour or however often it is that you're snacking. It becomes used to that pattern of that chemistry. It's like, man, yesterday and every day for the last 5 days, around 9 a.m., I felt this little thing go up in my brain that said, hey, it's happy time, things are great, life is awesome. But then on Friday, when you're trying to resist not having that morning snack, you feel that sensation of hunger because you're used to feeling that dopamine spike. It's not actually about, I need to eat, otherwise physically bad things are going to happen to my body. It's not a survival hunger that you're feeling. And that's an important distinguishment to make, is not having an emotional overreaction to the physical sensation of hunger. There's a lot of people who say they get hangry, they get angry. These are people who have little control over their emotions and their self-discipline. And intermittent fasting will help you gain control of your emotions, because it's not acceptable to get angry and to lash out at other people just because you're hungry, just because you haven't eaten in how many ever hours. That's not acceptable. That's not adult behavior. That's not a grown man in control of himself. Seriously, if that's your excuse, the reason you snapped on somebody is because you're hungry, especially if it's somebody you allegedly care about, a family member, your partner, and all this other stuff, and you're sitting there yelling at them and you said something that hurt their feelings because you were hungry, and now you're trying to use that as a justification. I'm sorry. You know how I am. I get hangry. You know how I am. I can't control my emotions when I get hungry. That's the truth. It's weakness. So intermittent fasting sheds weakness. It sheds that emotional connection to the feeling of hunger. It says, look, it doesn't matter if for some reason I get hungry at 11 a.m. It doesn't matter that I feel that. Whatever happens during my day doesn't change when I'm going to eat food, because I know I'm going to get all the calories that I need and all the protein that I need tonight, intentionally on schedule. The food's there in my refrigerator. I'm going to eat the food. There's no reason for me to eat earlier than that just to make myself happy. Got to have better control over your mental state. So intermittent fasting does a lot of things. It's kind of a life hack that people are skeptical about, and they'll tell you the reason they can't do it is because, like, oh, I gotta have breakfast. I can't, no, I'll be hangry if I don't have breakfast. My energy level won't be that high if I don't have a fucking bowl of oatmeal with brown sugar and maple syrup in it. These people kid themselves. It's a fucking joke. This is the red pill about nutrition. The lies people tell themselves to get out of just acknowledging that they aren't working very hard and that they are creatures of comfort. Oh, yeah, dude, totally. By the time I actually do get to eat at night, it is so pleasurable. Nobody appreciates food more than me or other people who do intermittent fasting. I mean, it hits good. It's like, if you're familiar with smoking weed, food tastes better after you smoked weed. That's just like a thing that most people know. It's the same way where I'm sure you remember how good food is before intermittent fasting. You know, you sit down and eat a great Papa John's pizza or whatever. It tastes great. Trust me. If you fasted all day and then ate that Papa John's pizza, you'd be like, holy fuck, this pizza is so good. Imagine that experience, but every day of your life. Every time you sit down to eat, you actually really appreciate the food you're eating. You'd think I like own stock in intermittent fasting the way I sit here and sell it so hard. But it really did change my life in terms of building that mental fortitude that says, I don't care what my emotions try to throw at me, these little grenades throughout the day. Ooh, I'm hungry. I haven't eaten in 6 hours. I want something that tastes good. Fuck off with that. And the ultimate fuck off with that comes when you start learning how to cut really well and how to get really low body fat, because you're going to need a lot of mental discipline to stay in a caloric deficit, not for the bulk of the day, but to do that for 90 days straight, 120 days straight. Like my usual summer cut is about 4 months long. That's 16 weeks of eating less calories than your body needs. You better fucking believe that means you're going to be getting hungry every single day before your eating window, long before. So if you actually have some goal about getting single digit body fat and wanting to walk around looking like I look in that bottom right video down there, there's no way to accomplish that without a very strong sense of self-discipline when it comes to hunger and not caving to their cravings. Do you sleep off all the food? Yeah, dude. I eat that 2,750 calories in one sitting within those 2 hours. And then I go straight to bed. You know, I go to bed at 9 o'clock at night, early. I go between 9 and 10, which is, you know, look, a lot of guys don't want to do that. They want to stay up till midnight playing video games or binging Netflix or hanging out in the social life, going out to bars. And then they wonder, why do you look like that and I look like this? We both go to the gym. We both try to eat right. Like, well, do you have the discipline to prioritize 8 full hours of sleep or more per night? Do you have the discipline to not drink alcohol and sabotage your gains that way? I mean, the discipline thing, you apply it to every aspect. The discipline to say no when your friends invite you to somebody's birthday party or when your coworkers invite you to happy hour after a stressful day. Like, you got to be able to say no to all these things. And the outside world is going to interpret that as you being antisocial, you being narcissistic, being self-involved, you being very vain and superficial because you're not coming to birthday parties because you want to have a six-pack. Is that the kind of asshole that you are? Fuck you. What I'm trying to do is improve my self-discipline, first of all. So don't try to morally guilt me with any of that shit. Don't let anybody ever guilt you over your fitness goals. That being said, there's still a way to have a social life. I'm not sitting here saying you have to go and live the life of a monk in order to have a great physique. It's actually not even remotely true. I have ample time to where if I wanted to, I could engage in more social outings. Like I said, I go to bed at between 9 and 10, and I get up around like 7 or 8. And so I get more than 8 hours of sleep. And that's why I have tons of energy to work a full 8-hour workday, to hit the gym, to walk my dog for an hour a day, to sit here and do a podcast for an hour or two. And I'm 36 years old, so I don't give a fuck what you young kids are saying about not having enough energy to get to the gym for an hour a day, 5-6 days a week. Okay. Sorry for yelling and screaming and ranting for those of you who took that personal. But I appreciate that, Diz Jizz. I try to stay youthful in appearance as well. But like it's not that hard. Like, you just keep working out and you stay young. You don't have to go and get Botox or do this. What was the homie in chat earlier saying? Looks maxing. where you're like going and getting your eyebrows done and all these like cosmetic procedures done on yourself, face peels and face masks and all this shit. No, listen, here's the secret to looking 26 while you're 36. Get your gallon of water a day. Commit yourself to the fitness lifestyle of hitting the gym 5 or 6 times a week, specifically with strength training or bodybuilding. Don't go do CrossFit. Don't go do, I don't know, fucking Zumba. Don't do cycling. Don't do running. My advice is pretty biased, obviously. I'm like, just go live my life. That's what you need to do. But I'm just telling you what worked for me and what's made me a fulfilled and happy person. So, not a doctor, just a bro scientist, 36-year-old bro scientist. Still have a full head of hair despite using steroids. Oh my God, look at that. Another myth busted. Yeah. I think that's all we got tonight, guys. I'm looking forward to that pan of nachos or the pizza. I got to decide which one I want. I need to meal prep up some ground beef. I need to get back to that. Otherwise, it's going to go bad. We'll see. And then have this smorgasbord of desserts after that. Some peanut butter chocolate chip Rice Krispie treats, white chocolate raspberry Quest bar, peanut butter Cliff bar, macadamia nut and white chocolate Cliff bar, and then maybe like a peanut butter chocolate chip Quest bar, and then a chocolate chip Quest chocolate chip cookie, and that'll be 2,700 to 2,800 calories, 160 grams of protein. Spot on for my numbers. All right, guys, have a great night. Thanks for hanging out with me. Hopefully you learned something. See you tomorrow.